9 a.m. version of info session / workshop from Impact Beaverton and the BRC. I'm here in the office with my good colleague Gustavo. He will be helping to monitor the chat. If you have questions along the way, I encourage you to ask questions as we go through the presentation instead of waiting till the end. I will try to go slowly. I sometimes talk a little too fast to give Jessica time to do translation and for people to process what I'm talking about. And if you have any other questions or concerns, just put them in the chat. Gustavo and I will monitor that as we go along. And so this is my first workshop that I am conducting with Impact Beaverton. I actually started here just about a month ago, a little over a month ago on January 5th, working at the Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce as Director of Small Business Support and Development with Impact Beaverton. The Impact and today's workshop is a one of two. So there's two in this series. There's this Tuesday morning and then next Tuesday morning, February 22nd, also at 9 a.m. We are playing with different times. Just to, for some people, noon hour is a little tough. So we're playing with noon time or 9 a.m. times. Please give us feedback of this time if it works for you. If there's another time that might work, any feedback that you have is very, very welcome. So hope you can also join us for next week. With that, we will only get through about half of the slides that I've prepared for today's workshop. And then the next half will be next week. And the focus for the workshop is business plan development for growing your business, right? As opposed to a business plan to start a business. There are some businesses that have had some really good times over the last couple of years and things are going relatively well and they are considering expanding or growing. And when you are growing as a business, it's good to have what's called a growing business plan. It helps in terms of not only put your ideas on paper, but can help with securing loans, getting grants, finding supporters or investors if you're interested in that. And so today's focus is on building a business plan for a growing business. So just a little bit for those of you who don't know about Impact Beaverton. Impact Beaverton is a collaboration between the City of Beaverton and the Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce. It's a one-stop free resource for any business that is licensed in Beaverton, or if you're a chamber member, we will also meet with you one-on-one for free counseling, workshops. And I know some of you may or may not be members or in Beaverton. We enjoy having participants in our workshops from all over Washington County. So we offer one-on-one counseling, a lot of other services. And so if you have any particular questions or would like follow-up after today's session and working on your own growing business plan, please reach out to Gustavo and I would be happy to set up a time to work with you individually. And our goal is to support startup businesses and existing businesses and to help make you a stronger business and help support you in any way that we can. And a good majority of our materials are available in English and or Spanish. So hopefully we can address most of your needs. Let me just look real quick. Okay, I was just checking chat real quick. So what I hope is that by the end of the workshop, and this is again a two-part workshop, by the end of the workshop, today, to understand the difference between a startup business plan and a business plan for a growing business, because there are some pretty distinct differences. We hope you will have a good outline for how you can build upon and expand your current business plan if you have one. And if you don't have one, that's okay. We'll walk you through the process of kind of what are the different elements of a business plan and how the growing business plan is different than the business plan for a startup business. We'll talk about some of the important features of the growing business plan and kind of why you would want a growing business plan and kind of what are the purposes for it in terms of guiding your business and also attracting funders and or investors. Provide some useful resources for developing your business plan, and then also let you know some areas where you can go for further assistance. So that's a little outline of kind of overall workshop goals, things we hope you'll accomplish by the end of not only today's session, but also next Tuesday's session. In terms of very specific outline, right? So just a little context, if you will, or a little logistics. So I'll be presenting throughout today's workshop. Again, Gustavo will be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, Gustavo will let me know, hey, Rob, there's a question. I will also stop occasionally after slides to just give you time to ask questions. I think most of you are already muted. If you would just mute your mic when you're not speaking. And then when you have a question, if you can either type in the chat, you can use the raise hand function, or when Gustavo calls on you, if you want to ask your question by unmuting your mic, that would be great. So, and then Jessica is doing translation for us. So again, thank you, Jessica, for doing translation for us. And after the workshop today, both the English and the Spanish version of this will be available to you if you would like to be able to review and watch again. So the very specific topics that I would like to cover today in the workshop are, what are the main components of a growing business plan? Very similar to a startup business plan, but it's what are the main components that you really need to focus on? Where are some areas that you can get some good templates for your business plan? What are some of the most important details that you need to put into your growing business plan? And I'm going to use an example as we go through of a fictitious organization called Delicious Diner. I will use this example throughout today and next week workshop as a way to give you an illustration or example of what I'm talking about, the type of information. Now, with these examples, please keep in mind that these are really short examples. Your business plan, your fully fleshed out growing business plan is going to have more detail than what I have, but at least these examples should give you some sense of what you would want to include in your growing business plan in terms of details. We will talk also about sources and details for information, particularly with a growing business plan, extra market data, why is your market growing, what's made your business successful so far that will continue it to build, et cetera. And then we'll focus more next week on the resources to get help along the way, but I refer to some of those today. So before I jump into the main components of a business plan, let me just look real quick and see. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we're okay in terms of chat, so I will continue. So your main components of a growing business plan, and again, these are relatively similar to the components in a startup business plan, but they're going to have more detail. So the very first thing that goes up front in your business plan is an executive summary, which is kind of the key highlights of the topics that are below. Now, for most of the time, you will write your executive summary at the very end, kind of after you've written all the other things, and this is your snapshot. It would be kind of information of we've been a successful business for 15 years. We are looking to grow and expand. We are looking for investors to help us expand, or we're looking for a loan to help us grow our business. And this is how we expect our business to grow in terms of revenues, in terms of employees. I'll get to an example of that in a little bit. But the executive summary is something you typically comes up front in your business plan, but something you probably write last. The next piece of your business plan, growing business plan, is your company history and prior success, right? When you're writing a startup business plan, this is your vision for your organization and what your organization will be doing. In a growing business plan, the company history is super important. It's what has been the successes of your business in the past? How has your business grown? How has your business weathered either recessions or the recent pandemic, to position your organization that is ready to grow? Like, we've been successful, we've been growing clients, we've started new programs, we've started new locations, and we're looking to grow that. So the company history becomes a very important piece of your growing business plan. The next piece is your products and or services that you're offering. Some of you are service-oriented businesses like a childcare. Some of you will more retail or a restaurant. So what are your products or services? What has brought you success in the past, and what might be new products or services that you will be offering as you look to grow into the future? The next piece that becomes really critically important in a growing business plan is your market analysis. How do you know that the demand for your business is going to continue to grow? Have there been population increases? Have there been more people requesting your services? Do you have a backlog of orders? Say you're a construction business and it's like, well, we used to, have enough jobs to keep us busy for 1 or 2 months out. Now we're scheduled 6 months out. that would suggest that your business is really ripe for growth. You're ready to add new employees. So the market analysis is also kind of data from what's going on, where are people spending money. And I'll give an example of that. And again, with a growing business, your market analysis is an absolutely critical component to show that there's evidence, that there's actually data saying that your business is ripe for growth. The operations plan is your expansion. How are you going to grow? Are you going to add facilities? Do you need to add a warehouse? Are you going to add employees? Are you going to add technology? So this is your kind of operation day-to-day. How are your day-to-day operations of your business going to change and grow as you grow as an organization, right? An organization that tries to grow too fast sometimes gets in trouble by not having appropriate technology or enough people to fill orders or enough trucks to deliver, right? So you have to make sure that as you're growing as an organization, all those different components of operation are growing consistently with your growth in sales, so that you're not disappointing your customers, so that you continue to fulfill orders and make your customers happy. The marketing and sales plan, similarly, you'll already be able to share what are your successes, what has worked for you in the past. Maybe you have data about the benefits of either Google ads or print ads, or you use the billboard, and wow, all of a sudden your business expand, right? And then what are you expecting? So a lot of times with a growing business, you're going to be moving into new markets, maybe expanding outside of Washington County, Oregon, and moving into other parts of Oregon and other parts of the Pacific Northwest. How are you going to do marketing and advertising to help reach customers in those new locations? So that's your marketing and sales plan. The financial plan, again, for a growing business is different than a startup business. For a startup business, typically, you will have about 3 years of what's called pro forma financials. This is what we expect to have in terms of sales and expenses over the next 3 years if things go as planned. With a growing business plan, you're going to have data to show from the past. It doesn't mean you have to go back to the very beginning of, say, you started your organization in 2005. You may not necessarily have to include financials going all the way back to 2005, but you'd probably want to include at least the last 3 to 5 years, saying, look, over the last 3 to 5 years, we've almost doubled in sales, we've grown in locations, we have this many more customers, right? This is what we've done for expenses, we've been able to increase profitability. So that financial plan includes not only what have you done in the past few years, but then what will you be doing in the future? What do you expect as you add new locations, as you add new markets, as you add new customers? What do you expect to see in terms of not only growth in sales, but also your growth in expenses? And what does that mean for your bottom line, your overall profitability? And then the final piece to your growing business plan, again, similar to a startup business plan, is what are your key personnel and partnerships, right? And the partnerships may be particularly important. It's not only the people who are helping to run your organization, your owners, your managers, et cetera. It may also include key partners, right? This could be vendors that you have. It could be other organizations that you do joint marketing with. It could be people that are help you with supply or getting the word out, right? It could be a distribution partner that you have. You may manufacture furniture or something, and somebody else is your distribution partner to be able to deliver goods to people. Those partnerships need to be ready. So if you as an organization are ready to grow, your partners need to be ready to grow with you. And this part of the plan is where you actually will talk about more specifics of who are your key personnel and who are your key partnerships. And that last piece in red at the bottom, it's important to understand your growing business plan includes all the history going back as well as what you're planning to do for the future. Okay, and I was just doing a quick look at chat. Does anybody have any questions? I'll slow down there for a minute. Does anybody have any questions that you would like to put in the chat? I don't see any now, but I just want to pause for a second. Okay. So company history and success. And again, the executive summary comes first in your business plan, but since we write that last, I'm not going to talk about the executive summary yet. I'll talk about the executive summary probably later next week, but this is where I'll start to use an example. And I want you to, as we're going through this, think about your business, right? So I know we have several people that have organizations that are looking for growth and maybe expanding new locations. So as we go through, I would like you to think in terms of your business, how does this information apply? So again, your company history and success is what have you done in the past, right? How has your organization grown? You're going to provide some key information about when you started, how you've grown over time, how your sales have grown, how you've expanded. So the example that I'm going to use throughout today's workshop, and I'll continue the similar example next Tuesday in part 2 of the workshop, is just a fictitious organization that I created called Delicious Dining, right? And so our sample organization, right, started in 2005. And it would be important to note that an organization that started in 2005 that's doing strong today will have survived through the recession between 2008 and 2011, would have somehow managed to survive and do well through the recent pandemic. And that's important because it shows something to potential investors or loan agencies, people who are willing to partner with you, that you have the business savvy, the business acumen to adapt, to pivot, to work through challenging times and succeed as a business, which would mean that your business model and the business product that you're selling is something that's of value to people in the market, right? So our sample organization, Delicious Diner, started in 2005. They were able to weather the recession and the pandemic. They've grown from initial first location to now they have 4 locations. They're looking to open several new locations over the next few years, with their focus of bringing delicious food with tremendous service at good prices to people in and around initially Beaverton and Hillsborough, but now looking to expand throughout Washington County. Now, again, you would include quite a few more details in your company history and success in terms of location, number of employees, what have been your sales, et cetera. We'll get into the financials, but this is just an example of what might be part of that. And I'm just looking, I'm taking a quick pause to look at the chat and see if there's specific questions. Okay. No, everything looks good. So, okay. So then the next piece, after you've gone over your company history and the success of your organization, the next piece is what are your products and services? And again, this is going to really depend on the type of organization that you're doing. So I'll use an example, a different example. So if I'm running a landscaping firm, and mostly what I've done in the past was yard care, right? So where I've mowed people's lawns, I've trimmed their bushes, I've taken care of their yards throughout the year. I may have decided, well, I've had so many people now ask me for landscape design services. They want to put in retaining walls, or they want to put in paveways, right? And I realize that I have a friend or I have a colleague who would like to join one organization who does landscape design, right? It may be that, okay, now the new part of the growth of the business isn't just continuing what we've been doing in terms of lawn care, lawn maintenance for both commercial and residential clients, but now we want to get into landscape design. So expansion of the business may be, in some ways, expanding the type of services that you're providing, right? So what you want to do is highlight what you've done in the past that has made you successful and why that's made you successful, and then start thinking about what are the things that you're going to grow in the future. And so the example that I have with the diner, the Delicious Diner, is, so our reputation has always been built around serving unique, high quality food with great service at good prices. Part of what has made the niche, and if you look, and we'll talk about trends later, with our example of Delicious Diner, one of the things to note is what has made them successful is they tend to serve local food where possible. So they've created partnerships with local farmers and local vendors to try to ensure that as much of the food that they are preparing, that they are serving their customers, is locally sourced, locally produced, less time to market, it's fresher, right? And then people know where they're getting their food from. There are restaurants out there that focus on that local food, that then they may even have a sub-menu that says, these are the partners we work with. These are the farms that our beef come from. This is where we get our eggs from. This is where we're getting our produce from, right? So one of the niches for this organization is that locally sourced food, right? And then one of the other kind of characteristics is, while each of the different locations has some common menu items, they allow the chef in the area to cater to local tastes. So if we have a restaurant that's in downtown Hillsborough, that may be a little bit different in terms of what customer preferences are than one that's in downtown Beaverton, or if we have one in Aloha, or if we're looking to open up a new restaurant somewhere else in Washington County or beyond Washington County, there may be different farms we work with, or there may be different customer preferences in terms of how spicy is the food, what kind of ingredients do they like, is there a preference for one type of meat over the other? So those are things. And then at each new location, we allow the chefs to kind of customize, because people who visit restaurants like to get to know the chef and what are the specials. And so that chef becomes a big piece of the success. And so for Delicious Diner, one of the things that they would focus on in terms of products and services would be the chef relationship with customers, the chef willingness to adapt to customer either dietary restrictions or preferences, or having a special. Hey, can you leave this off? Can you add this? That's something that helps attract people back to a restaurant. So that's a little bit about the products and services. Again, the focus for the Growing Business Plan. What have you done in the past that's done really well for you? What do you expect to continue that you've been doing in the future? And what are some of the new areas of products or services that you will be offering as a business? Okay, so the next piece of this, and this is where I'll slow down just a little bit to really focus on what makes a growing business plan different than a startup business plan. Yes, in a startup business plan, you want to have market analysis. You're going to have, okay, what are customers spend? How much do people spend on food? Or how much do people spend on landscaping? Or what is new construction? Or if you're a childcare business, how many kids are there in the neighborhood? Has that population been growing? What's the ratio of number of young kids in the neighborhoods and number of daycare facilities or childcare facilities, suggesting that there's growth? And so this is the section where you really demonstrate not only to yourself, but to potential investors, to potential loans from banks, to potential others that might support your business. Maybe there's grants to help you grow coming from a city or somewhere else. This is where you really show the data and the evidence that your business has been strong in the past, and you are positioned to grow, not just because your organization is strong, but because the market is suggesting that you're ready for growth. So what you would provide in this section is evidence of population growth, like clear evidence, right? And so the example that I brought here, and these are pretty close to exact numbers. They're not exact. That's why I say the data table is not exact verified data, but reasonably close data. So in 2005, when Delicious Diner opened, the population in Washington County was about 500,000. Current estimates for population in 2022 is 615,000. That's pretty significant growth over time, right? So there's more people, which would suggest more people are going to be eating out, et cetera, right? So, but that's not the only piece of evidence. So is there other market demand or scope? How much money is spent or in your industry on average? And so if you look at a couple other key pieces of data, the median household income, and this isn't adjusted for inflation, this is just raw numbers. Median household income in Washington County in 2005 was about $53,000 per household. 2022 estimates are $86,000. It's a significant increase in the amount of money that people have. And then what becomes more important is not just is the income, and for an organization like Delicious Diner, where we're not trying to be the cheapest supplier of food out there. We want to provide really good quality food with really tremendous service at good prices. Doesn't mean we're super pricey, but we're not the cheapest. We're not trying to compete on price. We're trying to compete on quality of food and quality of service at reasonable prices. So we're trying to create a good value for our customer. And that's that value proposition, and something you should be able to articulate to not only your customers, but if you're trying to grow, what's your value proposition, your growing business value proposition. So related to that is if you look at how much is each household spending on food, and the estimates here roughly about 30%. Some are more, some are less. Average household would tend to spend somewhere around 30% on food, and that includes what you get at the grocery store, what you eat out, your stops at little coffee shops, et cetera, right? Some are going to spend more, some are going to spend less, but both of these numbers are about 30% of median household income, right? But you can look at now from 2005 to 2022, I have data to suggest people are, instead of spending $6,000 per household, they're spending $25,000 per household, meaning they have more money that they are spending on going out to eat and finding food, right? And then a couple of other pieces of information, and this is where you have to really look broadly for information that supports what it is that you want to do with your business. So these other couple pieces of information are made up numbers. These are things that I just grabbed out of the air that I couldn't find. As there may be organizations that do this, but if you think in terms of trends, if you were to look back in 2005 and you were to do a survey of asking people how much would you be willing to spend a little bit more for locally grown food than you would for food that comes from another location. And in 2005, we'll guesstimate that about 1 in 5, or about 22% of people said, I would be willing to spend a little bit more for local food than for food of reasonable, similar quality, et cetera, that comes from somewhere else. Meaning people had interest in local food preferences, but it wasn't as strong. That local food preference has gotten stronger, and there is evidence of this, but the numbers I've put in here are a little bit made up. If now 2 out of 5, so it's almost doubled. So instead of 15 years ago or 17 years ago, 1 in 5 people said, I'm willing to spend a little more for local food than non-local food. Now that could be 2 out of 5. That gives more evidence that people are going to be willing to support our niche as Delicious Diner, that one of the things that makes us who we are as an organization is local food providers. So we work with local farmers, we work with local vendors, maybe we get local honey for things that use honey, maybe we get local if we can find other local produce, right? So we're going to source as much of our stuff locally, right? The other is looking for people who are local spend preference, and this is, do they think about when they go somewhere to shop for services or goods, do they think, I would rather spend my money on a local business than alone? An easy, obvious example of that is, would somebody rather go spend their money at a local coffee shop like Brick House right around the corner from us, or would they go to a large national chain that I won't mention, where you don't know where your money is going, but it may not necessarily be staying local? Similarly, that you can do that with a lot of things. You can go to your local hardware store where your money stays more locally, or you can go to a larger facility and then your money is helping to support jobs that may not necessarily be in the local area. And there has been a lot more focus of people in the last 15 years of, I would rather spend my money locally if I have the choice. Some people don't necessarily have as much choice, but if given the choice, would you focus on, are you willing to maybe drive a little further or spend a little more money to spend locally to keep local people and jobs than you would as opposed to? So these are data points that help to support your business growth. So if I'm saying I want to grow my organization, I want to grow Delicious Diner, I want to add 6 new locations. We have 4 locations now. We want to grow 6 new locations over the next 3 years, 2 locations a year. This is data, this is evidence that the market is going to support the growth of our business, because our business model and our niche as a business is fitting with what customer demands are and market preferences are out there in the marketplace. Okay. And this is why I say you'll have to draw different data. There are many different data sources that you can use. The Beaverton Library has a lot of sources of information. If you would like to use that, I'll come back to that later. But adding specific data that says this is how our organization is positioned for growth, and this is why we know the market can expect our growth. Again, if you're a childcare business, it could be, we've seen this growth in population of kids under 5. We know that the number of childcare hasn't kept up with that, or at least childcare capacity. There's more people trying to find childcare facilities. It could be landscaping, it could be hardware. There's a lot of different things. So what market evidence will support the growth of your business? And I'm just doing a quick, I don't see any questions yet, so I'll keep going. Yep. So, all right, so after you've done your market analysis, then you're really going to look at, okay, so here is, and you could conceivably put your operation expansion plan before your market analysis, typically would come after, but this is your very specific growth strategy for your business, right? So this is what you specifically expect to grow your business over the next, say, 3 to 5 years. What I've done in this example is I'm just focusing on the next 3 years, right? But you might say over the next 5 years, you conceivably could say 10, but I probably for most businesses, you wouldn't guesstimate more than about the next 5 years of here's how we expect our business to grow over the next 5 years. So in this section, again, you're going to have initially, and you could create a table if you wanted to create a table, you're going to say, here's our current operations. Here's what we've been doing. Here's a snapshot of our organization today. And here's what we're going to expect over the next several years in terms of growth. So you would have, what are your current locations and operations? Do you have multiple locations? How many employees do you have, right? Including total number of full-time equivalents, or do you have a number of full-time employees and a number of part-time employees? If you were a nonprofit organization, this might be combining full-time employees, part-time employees, and volunteers, but this is giving a sense of how many people you employ. This becomes important because if you're looking for certain types of loan sources coming from like SBDC, right, the Small Business Development Corporation, or like Mercy Corps, or from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, one of the factors that they look at is, are you growing your business and growing employment? Meaning, are you giving people more jobs? So if you were to say, hey, we have a small organization, we have 2 employees, we're going to go to 3 employees. That's great. You're adding another employee. What might be even more attractive to lenders and to government agencies in supporting you is, we have 15 employees, we're going to go to 30 employees. Okay, now you're doubling the size of your workforce, you're giving more people jobs. And yes, the government is concerned of more people having jobs means more tax income for the government, et cetera. So, you as business owners know one of your primary roles is tax collector for certain entities, right? But this is important information that different lenders or investors or granting agencies are going to want to know about the growth of your business. Then current data on customers, right? How many people do you serve? What's your average sale per customer, right? What's your average turnaround time? What's your average repeat business, right? Do people keep coming back over and over again? I used an example before of a landscaping company. If I don't do landscape design and put in things like rock walls and I do maintenance, my average sale per customer, per client might be $300, right? Or $300 a month. And if I start to do landscaping services, maybe now my average sale per customer is now 800 or 900 per customer, right? I'm spending a little more time on site, but I'm getting more dollars per customer. So all of the businesses should be thinking in terms of how many customers do I see each day? How many customers do I serve each week? And what's my average sale per customer? It's one of the most important metrics, and not only assessing the growth and health of your business, but also in comparing your business to businesses in the industry, right? So we'll come back to some of those examples in a little bit. Right. It also in this section helps if you've gotten awards or recognition for customer service or for food quality or for safety or sanitation or for just accolades of, if you're a daycare or a child care and you've gotten awards from a child care organization for outstanding care and educational growth of your kids or preparation of your kids in your daycare for being prepared for kindergarten. Those kind of accolades are really helpful in this operation expansion plan of here's the things we've done well, here's why we know we're positioned for growth. There could also be stuff related to inventory management of, we've been stocking things up, we're growing our warehouse, we now have a bigger facility because our customers are buying more goods. So all those different topics are things that you would highlight not only what you've done in the past, but also then what you're going to do in the future. So if I go to the example of Delicious Diner, right? So current operations, right, would be 4 locations, 3 in Beaverton, 1 in Hillsborough. Average sales per location, and this becomes important because we want to look at sales. We say our average sales per location is 1.25 million a year, right? So that's if we have 4 locations, so our sales last year would have been 5 million, right? And our goal is to open 2 locations per year, 22, 23, and 24. That becomes important because if I am an investor, I'm a lender, I don't want you to try to grow too fast. Businesses that grow too fast tend to get in trouble, right? You need to slowly ramp up your operations. And so I know that this is a reasonable. You have 4 facilities now, you're going to grow 2, then 2 more, then 2 more. That's a very reasonable amount of growth over a reasonable amount of time, right? So the other piece of that I said is, okay, here's what we expect to see in terms of employment growth. So at the end of 2005, we had one location, we had 15 FTEs. At the end of 21, we had 4 locations, we had 72 full-time equivalent employees working at our 4 different restaurants. We recognize that each location is going to average about 18 new FTEs based on our locations and our current data. At 72 FTEs is about 18 per location. And then our turnover rate is something that's very low. So if you work in the restaurant industry, you know sometimes turnover can be a real challenge. Focus for a later workshop, right? And so if we have data that says, look, the average restaurant has 85% turnover, meaning if they have 10 employees, they have to replace 8 to 9 of those employees. Like people aren't going to last more than about a year, right? If we as an organization, as a restaurant say we only have 32% turnover, meaning we're only losing 1 out of 3 employees a year, that's really good for the industry. Now, compared to some other businesses, maybe 33% or 32% isn't good. But this is something to highlight. We are doing something right. We're good at attracting good employees and keeping good employees. And that's something that potential investors, potential funders would want to know. We're growing, but we're growing smart, and we're growing and we're keeping good people along the way. Because if you are a business that is focused on outstanding customer service and high quality, you want to make sure you have good employees. Good employees provide better customer service, makes customers happy, keep customers keeping coming back. It's that positive cycle. The other thing, and these are just kind of made up little awards, but if we had been recognized as Delicious Diner, best places to work in Beaverton, that's why we're so low. People love working for us. Top local restaurants in Washington County, right? So if the Washington County Visitors Bureau had sent out restaurant surveys, and people love coming to Delicious Diner because of not only local food, but that's all local people, and they get to know the chef, et cetera. So people love coming here. So one of the top local restaurants. And then because of our local food, there's national organizations and regional organizations that are like Local Food Champion. And so we've won an award for Local Food Champion. So these awards or recognitions are important to say, hey, we've developed a strong reputation in this industry. And our strong reputation combined with our modest but aggressive, right, growth goals of opening 2 new locations every year for the next several years is realistic, right? What a potential investor or a potential funder doesn't necessarily want to see is, oh, we have 4 locations now. We want to grow to 87 locations in the next 3 years. That doesn't sound real feasible, especially if you want to maintain the quality that you've been known for in the past. Okay. Do one more quick check. Okay, just looking at, I don't see any questions. I'll continue to move. So that's your operation expansion plan. The next piece is kind of marketing and sales plan. And probably what I'll do is I will get through this section, and then I want to stop and take a pause about halfway through the slides. So after this, I do want to stop and kind of open things up for dialogue, and we'll encourage you to ask questions. So, but marketing the sales plan, referenced this a little bit before. What are some of the past approaches you've done? And what are some of the new strategies that you're going to use that are going to help amplify your growth plan? So what are your key messages? What are your taglines? What are the values? What are the images? Where have you advertised? And this is where it really helps if you have some metrics or some data on we've advertised these sources. Here's how we know this social media outlets. Here's the click-through we've gotten. Here's the reviews we've gotten in these sources. We advertised through a flyer, and we know that we did a direct mail flyer, and we know the direct mail flyer brought in 8% of the ones that of the flyers we sent out, we actually saw in the store. So that was a successful campaign. We put up a billboard, maybe because we're doing landscape design or childcare or restaurant, right? Kind of to be careful using billboards. We put up a billboard, and wow, our business, grew 28% over 2 months because of we put this billboard placement in, and people said that's where they found it. So what's worked for you in the past? There also may be new approaches that you have to search engine optimization, right? That SEO term of when people, how do you know that you're going to get hit, right? It could be you've joined the local Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce, and knowing that being a member of the Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce, that kind of bumps you up in terms of where you're going to hit on the SEO, right? So those are things that you can do to come up at that first page of the search when somebody's doing the search for landscaping or childcare or food or best places to eat or best local food, right? You want to make sure you come up in those searches. So what have you done that's worked in the past? What might you be doing differently in the future? Again, I mentioned, do you have new services that will enhance your reach and sales? If you are promoting new services, new entities, new things, how are you going to go about promoting those that may be different than what you've done in the past, right? And then similarly, right, are you going to update your system? So one of the things kind of marketing sales plan, so as you grow as an organization, you kind of need to grow the systems that are part of that, right? So if you've had a very small customer relation management CRM system that you've been able to track your sales, and when you if I'm doing, I don't know, landscape design, or maybe I'm fitting people's homes with furniture, right? If I have a relatively small business and I'm serving 10 customers a week or 7 customers a week, I don't need a real technical database. I don't need a very sophisticated system. If I'm going to start serving 50 customers per week, I need a much more sophisticated system to be able to run reports and data. So part of this, not only marketing sales plan, might be how are we capturing data, but how are we using the data we're capturing from our customers to be able to continue to send out the messages, to either send them coupons or send them announcements about a new product or a new service line, et cetera. So I'll use the example of Delicious Diner again. So the tagline that I have had in several of the slides is serving unique, high quality food with tremendous service at good prices. That's what people know us for, right? So if you think Delicious Diner, this is what our customers, they have great food, fantastic service, and very reasonable prices. It's not the cheapest place to go eat, but it's a good place to go eat. I recommend you go there, right? So what is it about? What have we done in the past? Well, we know it's our customers that keep us growing, right? For most businesses, it's that word of mouth. It's we have happy customers. They tell other people, they bring in business. Well, if we have 90% of our customers or 96% of our customers say they love our food and they love our service, wow, that's great. Okay, so there's a nice piece of evidence that what we're doing works. Because if we're delighting, right, 19 out of 20 of the customers that come in to our restaurant, they're going to be telling other people, and they're going to bring other people. Again, one of those pieces of data that becomes very helpful for a business is, what is your repeat business? How often are people coming back, right? So if there's a restaurant that you go to, but you only go to it once a year, maybe twice a year, that's fine, right? You can help keep that business, that restaurant in business. But if you're a restaurant and you have people that come back and eat at your restaurant more than once per month, right? That's a really good sign, right? That means customers are really happy. They're coming more often. So if we have data that says, hey, 40% of our customers dine with us more than once per month, right? We might even have other data that says, hey, 27% of our customers eat breakfast with us at least once or twice a week. That would be great information too. But we'll say dine with us in terms of dinner. People don't tend to go to the same place for dinner as often, right? But there's data, right? The other piece of kind of marketing sales data is we could say, hey, look, we've been gathering information from our customers. We have all this data about how happy they are. And in the comment section, we've had a number of our customers, and maybe we have a specific percentage that say, we would really love it if you did catering. We've been having events as things start open up with the pandemic, hopefully slowing down. We have banquets, we have quinceañeras, we have other events. We would really like you to be able to cater our events. Have you considered doing catering? And in the past, maybe we at Delicious Diner said, sorry, we don't do catering. We want to focus on our restaurants. But maybe it's now time to start doing the catering. Maybe the way to partly grow our business, and not just grow the business in terms of number of locations, but sales per location, right? So if you go back to some of the data before, I said the average location was 1.25 million per year. Well, maybe by offering catering services, the average location can up that to 1.5 million a year, right? So we're responding to customer feedback that says, hey, we really would like to have catering services and we would love to go to you, right? So customers have been requesting. So how are we going to respond to our customers and to what the market's demanding? Well, one, we're going to continue to write personal appreciation, right? We're going to have somebody who's very active on social media. When somebody writes us a review, we're going to make sure we go in and we thank that customer, right? There's a real strong, right? People like to be acknowledged. They write you a positive review. If you're the owner of the business, if I'm the owner of Delicious Diner and I see that somebody's posted a message, it might be, hey, Mr. Jones, I really appreciate your positive review. We love having you as a customer. Thank you for telling your friends. That kind of positive comment, right, or thank you to a positive review really helps. Similarly, right, occasionally, right, if 4% of our customers aren't happy and a few of those write a not so happy review, go in and respond to those. So one of the things we can do to better do marketing and sales and managing our social media is to have somebody who's very actively, maybe just once a day, right? Maybe it's 30 minutes or an hour a day, going in and responding to reviews, right? The other thing that we may decide to do as a business is, yes, we want to start doing catering, but we don't want to grow that side of the business too fast. So what we've decided very strategically is we're not going to start advertising catering services, but we're going to offer catering more as when customers approach us, yes, we will do catering. Here's our small catering menu. This is what we're going to do, but we're not going to advertise because we want to grow catering business more organically. Because in some ways, if you're a restaurant and you're used to just serving customers that come in or doing carry out, catering is in some ways a different industry in some ways, right? It's a different preparation. It's a different time frame. It's a different delivery system, right? Distribution is a different thing. Pricing can be slightly different, right? So it's moving into a related but somewhat different industry. So you don't want to grow too fast, because if you grow too fast going into that new industry, you may do detriment or do harm to what you've done well over the last 15 years or 5 years or however long you've been in business, right? And then the other thing maybe that we've done as a business is we've created a vendor relationship specialist, right? As we grow, right, with 4 locations, maybe it's one part-time person, maybe the owner, maybe the chefs can kind of manage the vendor relations with the local farmers and producers that we're working with. But as we grow to 10 locations, maybe we need a full-time person that does vendor relations, right? That goes out and talks to the people who produce our eggs or our honey or our beef or our pork or the herbs that we grow or that we serve in our food, or right, the other produce that we serve in our food, right? So that vendor relations person, because of the growth of the industry and the nature of what the restaurant is trying to establish and create as its niche, that may be a very important piece to make sure that supply chains keep going. We have those relationships. Well, if we're going from 4 to 10 locations, we're going to need that many more eggs. We're going to need that much more beef. We're going to need that much more asparagus or whatever happens to be. So that vendor relations might be part of our marketing and sales, right? So that person helps maintain relationships that are absolutely critical to the business. Okay, so I want to do a pause. I know we're about 9:51 is what I see as time. I want to make sure that we end on time today, but I want to look to see, does anybody have any questions? I do have the chat open now. I know Gustavo has been looking at it.
Sí, Rob, we have a question. José de Jared's Cleaning Service tiene una pregunta. José, ¿la quieres hacer, por favor? Es acerca de la expansión de su negocio.
Sí, mire, yo soy José de Jared's Cleaning Service. Nosotros tenemos, bueno, yo tengo una pregunta acerca de lo de la expansión, porque el problema de nosotros que estamos teniendo es que la verdad estamos teniendo muchos más trabajos, pero los estamos dejando ir. El problema es que no sabemos cómo agarrar a la persona adecuada, porque hemos tratado, pero hay veces el cliente no queda satisfecho con con la nueva gente que va. Entonces, ese es el problema que nosotros estamos teniendo. Entonces, estamos dejando ir los trabajos por no tener como, pues, no sé, no hemos podido encontrar a alguien como especial. No sé si nos podían dar como ideas para cómo lidiar con eso, porque pues la verdad nosotros ahora sí estamos dejando ir los trabajos. Pero lo que estoy escuchando, lo que dijeron, que lo acerca del café, como cuando estaba creciendo, por decir, si crece 2 al año, dos lugares más, en lugar de crecer 80 o eso. Entonces nosotros ya nos hemos mantenido por mucho tiempo como con las mismas personas, que es casi familiar. Entonces nosotros pues vamos y hacemos el mismo trabajo, se puede decir siempre, pero el problema es cuando llevamos a alguien más. la gente no queda contenta o hay veces por eso mejor dejamos ir los trabajos por no tener mucha gente. Esa es mi pregunta.
Gracias, José.
Gustavo, por favor.
Lo que yo te puedo recomendar en este caso es dos puntos. El tema de la capacitación, ¿qué tanto estás capacitando a estos nuevos empleados para realizar el trabajo como tus clientes están acostumbrados? Normalmente eso sería muy bueno hacer como un proceso escrito de cómo, por ejemplo, cómo limpias la cocina, qué tipo de materiales usas y cómo lo haces para que el nuevo trabajador siga ese mismo proceso que te ha llevado el éxito con cada uno de tus clientes. Y lo segundo que yo te recomendaría, pues al principio, cuando tú estás arrancando con un nuevo empleado, es la supervisión. Entonces, le vas a tener que invertir más tiempo en la supervisión, porque ahora tu rol ya es totalmente diferente. Tu rol ya va a ser como supervisor, ya no como un trabajador. Entonces, las dos recomendaciones que yo te puedo dar hasta el momento es una, la capacitación constante. Todos los empleados son buenos. Yo considero que el capital humano es lo más importante de un negocio. Entonces, pero tienes que trabajar en ellos, en capacitar de la forma como tú estás acostumbrado a operar tu negocio y constantemente la operación, la supervisión. Una vez que el empleado ya pueda hacer el trabajo él solo, pues lo puedes dejar un poco más abierto, pero al principio yo te recomiendo esos dos puntos. Creo que es lo más importante.
Sí, me parece buena idea, sí, porque lo que pasa es que sí, nosotros trabajamos como con un código para como las ciertas áreas de limpiar, por decir baños, cocina, pisos, todos tenemos un código de color, entonces nosotros inclusive también con los líquidos nos manejamos como amarillo, verde, rojo y azul, pero hay veces que nos cuesta, lo que nos está costando o no sé si no les sabemos explicar o hay veces que la gente se confunde, entonces pues sí hemos tenido un poquito de problema, pero sí, yo pienso que es buena idea lo que me dijiste, Gustavo, y
Sí,
lo voy a tomar en cuenta y voy a tratar de hacer como pues una
y
guía
anota,
para que ellos lo
exacto,
procesen.
anota un proceso a mano, con cómo debe de hacer las cosas y cuando el empleado tenga alguna duda, que esté solo, y no sabe cómo hacer, él puede acudir a su proceso
Sí,
y hacer las cosas. Normalmente en una certificación de calidad, toda empresa que quiere participar en esa certificación tiene que hacer sus procesos y cada nuevo empleado o cada empleado se tiene que aprender cómo hacerlo. Entonces, yo te recomiendo eso.
sí, está bien, Gustavo. Muchas gracias por su ayuda y lo vamos a tratar de hacer.
Okay. Rob, we have other question. Cristina quiere saber cómo aparecer en las redes sociales de la Cámara de Comercio. Rob, Cristina, he want to know how to I forget. He want to be a partner the Chamber of Commerce. You can explain something about the new members.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So the part of the benefit of being member of the Chamber of Commerce, and if you are interested, you can send me a message at rob@beaverton.org, or Gustavo can put our contact information in the chat. So either Gustavo@beaverton.org or rob@beaverton.org. And we can talk to you about the benefits of being a chamber member, not only in terms of workshops and support for your business, but also in terms of networking opportunities and ways to help get the word out about your business and partner with other businesses. So we have regular social and other business networking events that can be very helpful, I think, for businesses. So I also saw a question about continuing credits. I would have to look. So different crediting agencies have guidelines for what works as official continuing education credits. If you're doing childcare, I think that was what the question was about. I'd have to see if this workshop applies. I am not sure, and I can look into it. We're happy to do some of the work to make sure that our workshops apply for continuing education, but there's usually paperwork involved in terms of what is the context, who's delivering the information, what are their credentials. Again, I would suggest that if you wanted to contact me directly, my contact information, if Gustavo may put it in the chat, is rob@beaverton.org. It's at the end of the slides that I can share. I can type it in. Type it into the chat real quick. Okay, I have put my contact information in the chat. We are at 10:01. I want to respect your time. If there's one other quick question, I'll be happy to answer it. Otherwise, thank you very much for being with us today. I really enjoy working with you. If you have other questions, please let Gustavo or I know. We will have part 2 of this workshop next Tuesday, February 22nd at 9 a.m. Thank you again to Jessica for translating as we went through the workshop. Okay, I saw the question for email. Great. Yeah, if you have individual questions, please send me an email. I'm happy to call you back after the workshop today, or if you prefer to find a time to meet one-on-one, I'm happy to come visit you at your business, or you can come visit us here at the chamber. Again, thank you all very much for taking part in today's workshop. I look forward to part 2 next week at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. And I also look forward, if you would like to just meet with us one-on-one or to talk to me, please send me an email and I'll be happy to find a time to meet with you. So thank you again to my colleague Gustavo for helping set everything up today. Thank you again to Jessica for her translating services. Very much appreciated. And we will see you next week at 9 a.m. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Muy bien.
Gracias, Gustavo.
Gracias.
Bye, bye.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.